The man who said it was 32 years old, standing 6'2", with the kind of confidence that fills a room before the body does. His name was Derek Holloway, and he owned the most talked about chess club in Savannah, Georgia, the kind of place with exposed brick walls and a velvet rope at the door, where corporate lawyers came to feel smart and young traders came to feel smarter. He pointed at the old man sitting at the corner table, the one in the worn cardigan, the one with the reading glasses held together by a rubber band, the one who had been quietly nursing a cup of black coffee for the better part of an hour, and he said it loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Someone tell the janitor the club doesn't open until noon." The room laughed. Not everyone, but enough. The old man didn't look up from the board. His name was Arthur Gideon Webb. He was 69 years old. He had a slight tremor in his left hand that had started 3 years ago and never left. His shoes were scuffed at the toe. His coat had a small burn mark near the left pocket from a candle at his wife's funeral 2 winters back, and he hadn't been able to bring himself to replace it. He reached out and moved a pawn, quietly, deliberately, like he had all the time in the world, because he did. Derek walked over, still grinning, still performing for his audience, and looked down at the board. One of his regulars, a young analyst named Corey, who had been trying to beat Arthur for the past 40 minutes, was sitting across from him with the look of a man watching a car crash in slow motion. "How long has this been going on?" Derek asked. Corey didn't answer right away. He was staring at the board. "About 40 minutes, he finally said. "I think I'm already done. I just don't know it yet." Derek laughed, pulled up a chair, spun it around and straddled it backwards, the way men do when they want to seem casual, but are absolutely not. He studied the board for a moment, then he studied Arthur, the rubber band glasses, the cardigan with the frayed cuffs. "Tell you what, old-timer." He leaned forward. "Corey here is going to resign, and then you and I are going to play." Arthur finally looked up. He had pale gray eyes that were very still, very calm, the kind of eyes that have seen enough of the world to stop being surprised by it. "All right," he said. $5,000, Derek said. "If you can beat me in under 40 moves, I'll write you a check right now. Cash it today. I don't care." He glanced back at the room, making sure everyone was watching. "But when you lose, and you will lose, you buy a 1-year membership here. Full price, $1,200. He let that sit for a second. "Or you can just leave. No hard feelings." The room was very quiet now. Corey slowly pushed his king over, resigned. Arthur picked up his coffee, took a sip, set it back down. $5,000, he repeated. Not a question. Not excitement. Just repeating it, the way a man does when he's deciding whether a thing is worth his time. "Cash," Derek said. "Right now, and if I win," Arthur said. "You also apologize to the young woman at the front desk, the one you spoke to like she was furniture when you walked in." Someone at a nearby table made a sound. Not quite a laugh. Something between surprise and respect. Derek's smile flickered, just for a second. Then it came back wider. "Sure," he said. "Deal." He reached out his hand. Arthur shook it, firm, no tremor. That should have been Derek's first warning. Here is what nobody in that room knew about Arthur Gideon Webb. For 11 years, from 1987 to 1998, he had been ranked in the top 30 chess players in the United States. He had won the Georgia State Championship 3 times. He had drawn against 2 grandmasters in tournament play. He had been written about in Chess Life magazine in 1993 under the headline "The Quiet Destroyer." A name he had never liked but never argued with either. Then his daughter was born with a heart condition that required 4 surgeries before she turned 7. Then his wife, Nadine, was diagnosed with lupus. Then his own father's health failed. And then life, real life, the kind that doesn't care about ratings and rankings, simply took over. He had left the competitive circuit in 1998 without ceremony. No announcement, no farewell. He just stopped going to tournaments. The chess world moved on, the way the chess world does. New names came up. Old names were forgotten. Arthur didn't mind. He had other things to mind. For the past 23 years, he had worked as a maintenance supervisor at Savannah's public library system. Good work, quiet work. He knew every boiler, every leaky pipe, every temperamental elevator in all 4 branches. He had fixed things. He had kept the lights on. He had, in his own way, kept the books dry and the children warm on cold afternoons. Nadine had passed 2 years ago. Complications. His daughter, Kezia, had grown up strong, married a good man, moved to Atlanta, called every Sunday. She had offered to take him in. He had politely refused. He was still good. He had his coffee. He had his board. He had his walks. He still played chess the way he always had, in the mornings at parks and diners, and wherever the world would have him, against whoever sat down. He didn't explain himself. He didn't announce his history. He just played. He had walked into Derek Holloway's club that morning because it was raining and it looked warm inside. That was all. Derek opened with E4, confident, aggressive, the move of a man who learned chess the modern way, from videos and apps and coaches who emphasized speed and pattern recognition. It was a fine opening. It was the opening of someone who knew a great deal about chess. Arthur responded with C5. The Sicilian defense. Derek smiled. He liked the Sicilian. He had spent months studying it. What Derek did not know, could not have known, was that Arthur had not just studied the Sicilian defense. Arthur had lived inside it for 30 years, had played it in tournaments under pressure, in time scrambles, in positions where the wrong move meant losing months of preparation. He knew lines that no app had yet cataloged, patterns that lived not in databases but in the muscle memory of his hands. The tremor in Arthur's left hand was gone now. It came and went. The doctors said it was essential tremor, benign, triggered by fatigue and cold. He wasn't tired. The room was warm. His hands were steady. They played. The first 15 moves, Derek played well. Precisely, actually. And anyone watching who knew chess at an intermediate level would have said the position was roughly equal. Maybe slight advantage for Derek. Maybe. But Arthur was not playing for the position at move 15. He was playing for move 26. There is a thing that separates very good chess players from great ones. Very good players see the board as it is. Great players see the board as it will be. 3, 5, 8 moves ahead. And they steer toward that future board the way a river steers toward the sea. Quiet. Inevitable. Without apparent effort. By move 18, a young man named Owen, who had been watching over Derek's shoulder, quietly moved to the other side of the table to watch from Arthur's perspective instead. He didn't say anything. He just moved. By move 22, the older woman at the table nearest the window, a retired professor named someone nobody had introduced herself to, had leaned so far forward in her chair that her reading glasses were about to fall off her nose. Derek was still smiling. He had what looked like a strong position. 2 rooks on open files. A bishop cutting diagonally across the board. He was feeling good. Arthur moved his knight. It was the most ordinary-looking move in the world. A knight to d5, a square that seemed mildly interesting at best. Derek studied it for a moment, looked at the threats, didn't see one. Moved his queen to what he believed was a stronger attacking square. Arthur looked at the board. He took a sip of his coffee, which had gone cold. He moved his bishop. The retired professor at the window actually put her hand over her mouth. Owen, the young man, who had quietly changed sides, leaned back in his chair and exhaled. It took Derek 11 more seconds to see it. And when he saw it, the smile left his face completely. Not slowly, the way confidence erodes, but all at once, like a light switched off. It was a zugzwang, or close enough to one that it didn't matter. Every move Derek could make would worsen his position. The knight on d5 controlled the squares Derek needed. The bishop had sealed off the escape route Derek hadn't realized he was going to need 6 moves from now. His queen, which he had just moved to what felt like strength, was now trapped behind her own pieces, powerful in theory, useless in practice. He wasn't losing yet. The computer would have still called it somewhere between equal and slight disadvantage. But Arthur knew, and now, looking at the board for a long and very quiet moment, Derek knew. He looked up. Arthur was watching him, not unkindly, the way a teacher watches a student arrive at an answer. Patient, without judgment. "Your bishop," Arthur said quietly. "Move 7, that was where it started." Derek looked back at the board, found move 7. Replayed it in his mind. His mouth opened slightly. "I traded tempo for structure," Arthur continued. "But I didn't need structure yet. What I needed was time. You gave it to me." The room was completely silent. Derek sat back. He looked at the board for a long time. Then he looked at Arthur, at the rubber band glasses, the worn cardigan, the scuffed shoes. He had 23 moves left before the 40-move threshold. He played them. Arthur did not win in 40 moves. He won in 31. Nobody cheered. That's not what the room felt like. It felt more like watching something that deserved quiet, the way people go quiet at the end of a piece of music that got inside them. Derek stared at the board for almost a full minute. Then he pulled out his checkbook, set it on the table, wrote the check slowly, deliberately, $5,000, slid it across to Arthur. Arthur folded it once and placed it in the front pocket of his cardigan, next to a worn photograph of Nadine that he carried there because some habits become structural after long enough. Then Derek did something nobody expected, including, perhaps, himself. He stood up, walked to the front desk, where a 23-year-old named Amara had been pretending to reorganize membership files since the beginning of the match and had, in fact, been listening to every word. "I owe you an apology," Derek said. His voice was different now, smaller, real. "The way I spoke to you when I came in this morning, that was wrong." Amara looked at him for a moment. Then she nodded. Once firmly, the way someone accepts an apology without yet deciding whether they forgive it. Derek came back to the table. He looked at Arthur. "Who are you?" he asked, not belligerent, genuinely. Arthur considered the question the way he considered chess moves, unhurried, looking at it from all angles. "A man who had a warm morning," he said. Someone in the club that day posted about it online. No video. Nobody had thought to record it, which was its own kind of grace. Just a post, about 300 words, written by Owen, the young man who had quietly changed sides to watch from Arthur's angle. He described the game. He described the moment Derek's smile went out. He described Arthur folding the check next to a photograph in his cardigan pocket. He described the apology to Amara. He ended it with a single line, "I've been playing chess for 4 years and I thought I was getting good. Tonight I learned what good actually looks like. It looks like patience you can't buy and time you can't rush." The post was shared 11,000 times in the first 48 hours. Someone tracked down Arthur's name through the club's guest registry. Someone else looked him up and found his old tournament record, his 3 state championships, the 1993 magazine article. The headline, "The Quiet Destroyer," came back around 26 years later, on a Tuesday morning in Savannah, Georgia, in comment sections and reposts and quote tweets from people who had never heard of him before. His daughter Kezia called him that Sunday. And her first words were, "Daddy, why didn't you tell people?" He was quiet for a moment. "Tell them what?" he said. "Who you were?" He thought about that. About the library boilers and the leaky pipes, about Nadine, about the 4 surgeries and the morning Kezia came home from the last one with color in her cheeks for the first time in years, about 30 years of mornings with a board and a coffee. "I didn't stop being who I was," he finally said. "I just stopped performing it." Kezia didn't say anything for a while. Then she said, "I'm proud of you, Daddy." "I know you are," he said. "I know." Derek Holloway, and this part matters, so stay with me, did not respond the way some men respond when pride takes a hit. He did not make excuses on social media. He did not quietly try to revise the story. He called the club together 2 days later and stood in front of his members and said, simply, "I misjudged a man because of how he looked. I was wrong about what that means, and I am working on understanding why I did it." That's the part of the story the internet didn't share as much. It should have, because here's what I want you to take from this, and I say this having thought about it for a long time since that morning in Savannah was first described to me. We live in a world that has decided very efficiently what expertise looks like. It looks young. It looks polished. It looks like the right clothes and the right room and the right confidence. And when something doesn't look like that, when it comes in a worn cardigan, with rubber band glasses, with a hand that sometimes trembles, we assume it is lesser. Arthur Webb spent 23 years fixing the things that kept other people's worlds running. He did it without recognition and without complaint. He carried his history in his pocket next to a photograph of the woman he loved. He walked into a room on a rainy morning because it looked warm, and when someone handed him a board and told him to prove himself, he didn't argue. He didn't explain. He didn't show credentials. He just played. That is what mastery actually looks like. Not the announcement of it. The thing itself. Quiet, complete, unhurried. And if you've ever been the person in the worn cardigan, sitting in a room that didn't think you belonged there, I want you to hear this. They don't have to know your story for your story to be true. Keep playing.